For weeks, my family promised a huge surprise for my 50th birthday. My wife said, "Just wait." The big day arrived, and I came home to an empty house, no call, no message. Hours later, I saw a photo online, my wife, my kids, my in-laws, all smiling at a beach resort. My son's caption? "Wonder if he'll even notice we're gone, LOL." I stayed silent. I just watched. 3 days later, 47, urgent messages flooded in. David had always believed that surprises were one of life's greatest joys. They brought a sense of excitement, a reminder that life was about more than just routine. So when his 50th birthday rolled around, he eagerly anticipated the surprise his family had promised. For weeks, his wife, Lisa, and their children had been dropping hints about a huge surprise for his milestone year. His eldest son, Luke, had been particularly excited. Every time David asked for any hints, Luke would grin, a mischievous glint in his eyes, and say, "You'll just have to wait, Dad." It's going to be epic. Lisa, on the other hand, would simply smile at him with a look that suggested she was savoring the mystery. She had always been good at keeping secrets, and her favorite phrase had become, "Patience, David. You're going to love it." But David couldn't help his curiosity. The suspense was killing him, but he didn't press too hard. He trusted that whatever they had planned would be worth the wait. Birthdays in their family were always special. It wasn't about extravagant gifts, but more about shared moments, those unexpected and delightful experiences that created lasting memories. Over the years, as the family grew older, these surprises had become rarer. David had started to realize that the days of spontaneous adventures were few and far between. That's why this year felt different. It wasn't just about turning 50, it was about having one last hurrah, a birthday celebration that would break the monotony of life and remind him that surprises still had a place in their family. When his birthday finally arrived, David woke up with a sense of anticipation, like a child on Christmas morning. The whole day felt charged with potential. Lisa had told him to keep the entire evening free, so he cleared his schedule and waited for whatever was coming. He even started imagining the possibilities. Maybe they had booked him a weekend getaway, perhaps even a cruise he had always talked about taking. It could be a family trip, something that everyone could enjoy together. As the evening approached, David could feel the excitement building. When he arrived home from work, he half expected to be greeted by balloons, decorations, and the sound of laughter, or at the very least, some hint of what was to come. Instead, the house was eerily quiet. He stepped inside, calling out to Lisa, "Hello?" But his voice echoed in the empty hallway. The silence was deafening. The house was dark, dim lighting casting long shadows on the walls. He checked the living room, the kitchen, and even the backyard. Not a soul in sight. His pulse quickened. Had he missed a text? Was there some other plan he wasn't aware of? He pulled out his phone and dialed Lisa's number. The call went straight to voicemail. The knot in his stomach tightened. Confused and growing increasingly unsettled, David continued to search the house. He thought maybe they were just out in the yard, or maybe there was a surprise waiting somewhere. But no matter where he looked, he found no one. The house felt foreign, empty, even though he had lived there for years. Then his phone buzzed. A notification flashed across the screen. A photo from his son, Luke. His heart sank as he opened it. The image was of his family, his wife, his children, even his in-laws, all standing together on a sandy beach. They were smiling, soaking in the sun, their faces filled with joy. His son's caption read, "Wonder if he'll even notice we're gone, Lowell." David's breath caught in his throat. The image felt like a punch to the gut. His family, the ones he had waited for, had left him behind. There was no explanation, no happy birthday text, not even a message saying goodbye. Just the harsh reality of the photo on his screen. His mind raced, trying to comprehend the absurdity of it all. How could they do this? What kind of joke was this? His anger surged, but he kept it inside, not wanting to give them the satisfaction of seeing him react. Instead, He sat there, in the cold silence of his empty house, and waited for something. Anything. He dialed Lisa's number again. No answer. He sent a few messages, but they went unread. The hours ticked by, and David found himself trapped in his own thoughts. The family had been enjoying themselves on a beach resort, completely oblivious to the fact that he was at home, alone and in the dark. The silence on the other end of the line was maddening. His mind whirled with questions. Why wasn't he part of this? Was it a mistake? A cruel joke? More pictures appeared on his feed, his wife and kids laughing by the pool, playing in the sand, making memories he wasn't a part of. The captions stung each time. Bet Dad won't even notice we're gone, Lowell. David felt tears welling in his eyes. He didn't know whether to be angry or devastated. He couldn't wrap his mind around why they would do this to him, why they would leave him out without a second thought. But the silence of the house and the steady stream of images left him helpless. He didn't respond. He just watched. Watched as his family's laughter echoed from the other side of the world, and waited, waiting for an explanation that never came. The next 3 days felt like a never-ending haze of confusion, anger, and helplessness. David spent the hours trapped in his own mind, desperately trying to make sense of what had happened. His thoughts were consumed by the strange silence from his family. Not a single word from Lisa. No calls, no texts, nothing. The longer the silence stretched on, the more his frustration grew. How could they do this to him? How could they just leave him behind without a second thought? As the days passed, David watched in disbelief as more pictures flooded his social media feed. His wife, children, and in-laws, all of them smiling, laughing, enjoying themselves on their vacation, while he sat at home, completely alone. The blatant joy they seemed to be experiencing only served to intensify his feelings of isolation and abandonment. It was like a cruel mockery of the family he had once known. The last time David had spoken to any of them was that brief, impersonal, happy birthday in the morning. Since then, nothing. No attempt to reach out. No care for how he might be feeling. His mind raced with every possible scenario. Was this a test? A joke? If it was a cruel one. But deep down, he felt something more was at play. This wasn't just a prank. It felt deliberate, calculated. David had been part of this family for so long, and yet now he felt like an outsider, cast aside with no explanation. He couldn't remember when things had changed, but it was clear that something had shifted. Unable to take the silence anymore, David made the decision to reach out. With trembling fingers, he typed out a simple message to Lisa. "What is going on? Why am I not with you? Why didn't you call?" He pressed send, then waited. The phone stayed silent. Hours passed. Nothing. David couldn't fathom why they weren't responding. What could possibly be more important than a simple conversation with the person they had left behind? 3 days later, David was beginning to feel a mix of anger, confusion, and pain that he couldn't suppress any longer. His thoughts circled around one thing. Why? Why had his family done this to him? What was their intention? Why did they think he wouldn't notice they were gone? The more he reflected on it, the more he realized how deeply betrayed he felt. It wasn't just about the surprise being ruined. It was about the complete disregard for his feelings. His birthday, a day that should have been filled with love and togetherness, had turned into an emotional void. He could still hear his son Luke's excited voice echoing in his mind, promising an unforgettable surprise. Yet here he was, alone, abandoned in a house that felt more like a prison than a home. Finally, his phone buzzed. A notification popped up, and David's heart raced as he saw it was from his son Luke. His son had been the one most excited about the huge surprise, the one who had teased him with promises of something grand. The message that appeared on the screen was like a slap in the face. "Dad, please, I didn't mean for things to go down like this. Mom and I were planning something big for you, but everything got messed up. I know it's not what we promised, but we need to talk." David's fingers hovered over the screen, his emotions a whirlwind. For the first time in days, he felt a shred of hope, but the bitterness was still strong. He was angry. He was hurt. The words on the screen seemed so hollow compared to the feelings that had built up inside of him. How could they have thought this was okay? His family was supposed to be the people who cared for him, who would never leave him behind, but now they had shattered that trust in the cruelest way. Another message popped up, then another. His phone buzzed in rapid succession as more notifications came in. It was Luke again, then Lisa, then his in-laws. Each message was desperate, apologizing, explaining, trying to make sense of what had gone wrong. "I'm really sorry, Dad. Please understand. We never meant for you to feel this way. I love you, Dad. Let's talk." In total, there were 47 messages, each one more frantic than the last, each one trying to undo the damage that had been done. They were all desperately trying to make amends, begging for his forgiveness. But for David, the damage was too deep. It was too little, too late. The hurt had already set in, and no amount of words could undo the betrayal he felt. David stared at the screen for a long time, feeling the weight of his family's actions press down on him. He had spent 3 long days in the dark, trying to piece together what had happened, and now he was faced with a barrage of apologies, but none of it felt real anymore. The hurt was still raw, still burning inside him. The questions lingered. Was this some twisted game? A test? Or had something deeper been festering under the surface for a long time? He set the phone down slowly, the messages still blinking on the screen, begging for his attention. But in that moment, David knew that something fundamental had shifted. He wasn't sure if he could ever look at his family the same way again,